Welcome to Nebraska Preps Postgame with Damon Benning and Jacob Padilla.
Yep, that's right. It is another week in EB Preps in full effect. My man Jacob Padilla, we're back. And with a tight schedule. I've got Rock Hill, South Carolina to watch today with ETG's teams. And you're catching a flight this afternoon to be a Houstonian temporarily.
Yeah, the first time I've been there. Only time I've ever been to Texas is to San Antonio for NCAA tournament. We won't talk anymore about that. Hopefully this trip down there ends better for my team.
Great places to eat. I know you don't care much about food.
We're gonna be down there for like 5 days.
But it is a fantastic city for food. It is a terrible city to navigate traffic. So leave early and stay late.
That's perfect for me because I have to drive.
Yeah, I don't. So and I watch that, like the chaperoning and stuff, quote unquote, when the coaches drive, and you at any time you could have 8 kids. Sometimes you're driving for 2. You want to be more efficient and have at least this many if you're going to make a food run.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm cut out for that.
Yeah, we got vans for all of the coaches and supervisor, but I have no idea how many kids are actually going to need transportation because I know like, a lot of my parents are going down there, and at least one of them I know said rented their own car so they can go around and check things out during the downtime. So I have no. We'll figure that out, I guess, once we get to the airport today.
Unlike this past weekend, are you expecting to be locked and fully loaded with your roster?
I think so. I think we're going to get to 10
as you're leaving today.
The 10th is still a little like he's going to give it a go and see what happens, but I think we'll have 100. I think we'll definitely have a 9 with the 10th possibility to play at least a little bit. So,
are you better with fewer numbers to options?
I don't think so because our record is much better when we've got 8, 9, 10 compared to 6, which we had far too often during the spring. So there's definitely a sweet spot in there. It's a lot easier to sub with 8 guys versus 10. Let the guys that are kind of rolling stay out there. Championship game, Nate Kelly didn't come off the floor for me in the second half. So it's a little bit easier to do when you've got 8 while making sure everybody gets the playing time they deserve, while also kind of letting the guys that are rolling stay out there and give you your best chance to win. But we'll figure it out this weekend.
Interesting as well as ETG gets ready to tip here in about 20 minutes. Playing with 8. Played with 8 this past weekend, as we'll get to here in a second. No Jacob a rope. And Eli will not give that toe a go either. Just the soft tissue, just not responding well. And it's been kind of chronic for him.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. He's had a lot of
injuries.
Yeah, a lot of kind of periods where he's had to miss. He made it through the full season. He was good all the way through the spring. Yeah. It was good to see. It's a long extended stretch of play for him. But now June kind of caught up to him because he was playing well through the Kansas City weekend, and then had to take the last week or so off. So hopefully it heals up soon because you guys don't got a whole lot left after this.
No. We have Vegas, and I think that'll be about it.
Yeah.
So I think they're done after the weekend of the 15th. I think so. It is quick, which selfishly allows us to really dial into training multi-sport because. That has been a grind as we've tried to get ready for the upcoming football season too. But the June break helped, especially being at the high schools because that's where we do most of the training. But coming off the River Cities weekend, a lot of kind of up and down play. But I felt like for the most part, not a ton of high end kind of stuff, but consistency I think was there.
Yeah, so kind of the format in the past, we've always referred to River Cities as like the state tournament of AAU here. Gotten a lot of good programs from around the area to come in and participate as well, whether in the actual bracket part or in showcase games. They've kind of done it differently throughout the years based on what teams are interested in. Unfortunately, this year the tournament they grew the tournament over 300 teams, adding girls and boys, and just kind of blowing out the tournament a little bit. The downside of that is less games for the bracket play for the high end. In the past, you played 5 games if you've made it all the way to the final, because you got the way it just played out is you able to get a little bit more. It was capped at 4 because they just didn't have the game space to schedule any more than that. So, and they didn't have as many teams coming in from out of state. ETG chose to only play
the 2
showcase games. Omaha Elite was out of town.
So they were in St. Louis, right? And I think ETG only wanted to play the 2 because they left Tuesday.
Yeah.
Didn't want to play the 4 games and then turn around and travel.
So, and that's kind of the way. It's really disappointing. And I know, like, AEF and Factory did their own tournament this weekend, small tournament, so they weren't in it. Nebraska United was over in that. So there are a lot of kind of some of the better teams that weren't in the tournament, which is kind of a bummer. I love the way the tournament used to be, and even last year was so much fun when with the way that played out. Like my 17s playing against,
played against us.
Your guys playing up 16 ETGs in the semifinals. That was a really fun game.
Yeah.
Obviously the final didn't happen because of injuries to the 17s, and just decided to call that off. But the 16s and 15s championships were fun. Like that's. I wish, I don't know if we got to figure out, move it to the spring, figure out something different.
Well, let me ask you something real quick before we recap this thing along those lines. Do you think, because different sports are different, in the summer, can you see all these organizations playing nicely together, doing something big, or do you think we'll see more of the doing our own thing, splitting off the way that it's kind of morphed into the last handful of years?
Yeah, because I know, like, last few years, Supreme was doing their own thing. Last year they were down and had the St. Louis tournament to go with the Next Pro thing, the whatever it was. The year before,
it was the UA.
They fell out, and then they came back and played showcase games because what they were going to do fell through. So they at least were in it. We got to go see them play with Isaac Trout and them. I hope we can get to the point where we figure out something where just everybody plays in it. Like, it's for the good of the kids. Like, that's what it should be. Everybody should be in at least one tournament together. So these kids can compete against their friends, compete against their rivals. It's a lot of fun. The bragging rights online, even inter programs. Like, it's fun when the team below gets a crack. I know my guys were excited, hoping that we'd get a chance against ETG just to play that game, and it didn't happen. So it's always something, a motivating factor for the teams below to get up for that game. And I know my guys in the past.
I remember that first half last year. I know why you guys wanted that game.
So it's I hope, like I said, it makes sense with how big this second weekend of July is for the shoe circuit teams. Again, like you said, guys flew out Tuesday. The tournament starting today. It's a quick turnaround to play 4 or 5 games in the first weekend back, and then 2 days later you're on a flight out to wherever. So I understand that. I just wish that we could figure out a solution to where we can get everybody competing in the same tournament.
What weekend is your July weekend over?
So we play the first 4 weekends. So we're back in Omaha next weekend, and then down in Kansas City for the hardwood for the 4th tournament. So yeah, we play all 4 this month.
I'll enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely, especially again full strength. But we've kind of talked enough. Let's get into the actual games here. We talked about ETG just playing in showcase games. Want to touch on those first, and then we'll get into the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a grind.
Yeah.
They blew a lead late against Kingdom Hoops, who dealt them fits earlier in the season. That Kingdom Hoops team was up by as many as 15, 16 the first time they played. This one they came from behind, right? There was that final stretch, I think, with about 5 minutes to go, where Kingdom Hoops kind of made their run. It was 51-43. And Alvin goes back to kind of a core group under about the 2-minute mark. And I think they went in with a 2-point deficit, 53-51. So it was Kingdom Hoops didn't turn the ball over a ton. They just
Yeah.
don't have a lot of empty trips, right? They're either getting it on the glass, shooting a free throw. They don't have a lot of empty trips, and I think their offensive efficiency mucks it up for ETG.
Yeah, and Luke Winkle from Ankeny Centennial
He
Bernard,
is tough.
he was doing a great job of getting downhill, using his body, spinning one way, going up through the contact, and
deceptively
finishing.
strong too. He dealt them fits the first time they played him too. He's crafty.
And so ETG lost 63-62 in overtime. Was his final on that to Kingdom Hoops. So so there was no bracket play in 17U, but Kingdom Hoops from Iowa was the only team that went 3-0 in the Platinum Showcase games, whatever. And then all Iowa Attack won the 16s and 15s. So an Iowa sweep this year, I guess, for the best showings in the three divisions. Yeah, they shot 11-24 from three, but only 9-25 on twos. And down the stretch, they just could not convert the buckets they needed. They couldn't made some bad decisions. Didn't finish on some plays. And Kingdom Hoops did down the stretch. And again, like we've seen that is something they struggle with against shoe circuit competition, where you've got Division I dudes in length and size. They really have had to shoot the ball well to survive.
Rock Hill.
Yeah. But Jane Jackson played really well. 22 points, 6 of 10, 5 of 8 from three, hit all 5 of his free throws. It just never really got anybody else going. Like you said,
not consistently.
No Jacob Rope, no Elijah Gase. So they shorthanded there. But bounce back. Second game was NBADA, who also shorthanded, unfortunately. Trace Anderson. From Lincoln Pius 10, still sideline. And they had different guys coming off their bench every single game because they just didn't have their core group there for every single game. So, but really impressive defensive performance for ETG, winning that one 61-45. Another efficient game offensively. Did score a little bit better inside the arc, hit 9 threes. And they held MBDA to 17 of 61 from the field.
Mm-hmm.
And again,
that second half got really mucky.
Yeah, it did very much so. Jackson finished with 19 on 7 of 12 shooting, 5 of 8 from three, 7 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals. 5 of 8 from three in both games, and he got a dunk in both games too. Threw a nice alley-oop set play for him in the NBDA game, and
it's a little different. Little different. He showed a little bounce.
And then Kingdom Hoops just half court, got it to him downhill, went up 2 hands in half court off the dribble. Like, okay, Jaden, that's he plays like that here down here in South Carolina.
A lot of eyeballs too, so he'll have an opportunity.
Big week for him. So they went 1-1. ETG 16U went 2-0 with 2 kind of different games. First one, absolute shootout, 81-80 in overtime against All Iowa Attack Elite Red. And man, that was fun to watch. Raining threes on both sides. Guys getting up and down, open court. They had 5 in double figures, shot over 50% from the field, hit 14 threes, had 21 assists. But the star of the game was absolutely Bryson Ball, who finished with 27 points on 10 of 16 shooting, 7-11 from three, 7 rebounds and 3 blocks. He had the go-ahead 3 in overtime, down by 2. They run a play. Reese Kircher threw it to him coming off the screen, knocked it down to put them up 1 with less than 30 seconds left. They go down. Attack kind of takes their time, gets downhill, and ball comes in from the weak side and blocks kind of the reverse layup, and they hold on to win that. So phenomenal game from him, made the game-winning plays on both ends of the court. And then very different game. Well, I guess you had Braden Frager had 12 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. Brock Scholl had 11 points, 7 boards. Lazarick Houston had 11 points and 3 assists, efficient shooting. And then Robbie Garcia had 10 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists. So had a lot of guys rolling.
Robbie's having a good summer. I felt like he was pretty good in summer league. He's shooting it a little more consistent, and man, he's kind of crafty. He's kind of a below the rim guy. He's very good with his body control.
Yep. And second game, 53-42 against Kingdom Hoops Elite. Much more of a grinder, but they pulled it out in the end. Didn't shoot very well, but Derek Rollins was great. Had 17 points, 5 of 8 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3, 5 of 6 from the line, so scored in every way possible. 8 boards, 4 offensive.
Have you noticed he's shooting it much more consistent from distance? It started a little bit in summer league, and we're just getting started, obviously, back with on the AAU circuit. But I watched him in both gyms last week. He seems to be shooting it a ton better from distance.
That's one of the keys for him to continue to like stretch out his game and progress. Where he's been mostly a post player. That's where he's had his best success now, and he's about 6'4". So definitely needs to keep expanding his game, to work on some of the perimeter stuff to kind of round it out as he continues to age. But in Lazarick Houston also had 12 points, 5 of 8 shooting, 2-4 from 3, and good to see him playing well, because one, they need him. You look at that roster, there's not a lot of great guard play. It's a lot of wings, a lot of forwards on that team. It's really only Reese Kircher and Lazarick as ball handling guards. And Zarek was hurt I didn't see him play at all in June, so good to see him back healthy.
He gives them some defensive teeth too in the backcourt when they see some of these good guards, like, because he's a good defender.
Yep. So he played well both games, and then had other guys step up. So good week, good 2-0 showing for them. And then ETG 15U also went 1-1. Had a rough one against All Iowa Tech Elite Red, 73-49. That team is really good. We'll talk about them once we get to my team in the 15U bracket. But they bounced back with an 84-64 win against Kingdom Hoops Elite. We're 60% from the field, just living in transition, hit 13 threes, 21 assists, so share the ball and knock down shots. That's a key for them. Sutton Piatkowski was phenomenal. 19 points, did not miss a shot. Hit 3 threes, hit 5 buckets inside the arc. Just scoring every way possible. Monte Gettings from Papio South also hit shots, 15 points, 5 of 6 shooting, 3 threes.
He's got a pretty smooth game, doesn't he?
Yep. Nike Orgabold, 11 points, 4 or 5 from the field, 2 threes, and an and one. And then Deshaun Prince, a new addition to the team, who will play with them in July from Omaha Central, the dual sport star, who they're looking at him for the roster heading into the spring, and then just kind of with the football thing, 7-on-7, decided it's probably not going to work out. But here in July, he's got a little bit more time, and he's a good fit for that team.
He sat with us a good while at the field house, and you commented on his frame about a month ago, and you can tell he's got good size. He's put on some muscle. He's well liked too. The kids, they really like him. He's a good egg.
Yeah. 10 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds. So you do that kind of a little bit of everything.
That'll be athletic.
That'll be a really good addition for that team, because you need a guy that kind of connector piece that'll rebound, that'll compete,
and he'll guard,
and share the ball. Yep.
He'll guard.
So that was kind of the showcase portion of the day. Let's dive into the 17U Platinum. Nebraska Supreme had the best record for the Nebraska teams in that league. They only played 3, but they lost to Kingdom Hoops Elite, or EYCL. I didn't see that one, but that was 81-72. I did see the other 2. They beat MBDA, again, shorthanded, but 69-61. And now they're kind of figuring things out too, losing Bengat Dak for Supreme. Yeah. So, and Dylan Clausen, Cade Cook inside gave him a little bit of gave him some problems in that game.
They need some like MBD, a little more consistent guard play, because that front court, they're tough. They can put pressure on the rim too. They got good length,
especially if they get Trayson back to go with Dylan. You got Cade out on the wing as opposed to playing the 4. The way he handles the ball and sets other guys up. So, and Dylan's a really good passer too. So like they run everything through those guys.
It's a long bunch.
Yeah,
like that. I just kind of looking, watching that second game. That is a long bunch.
But Marcus Glock was spectacular all weekend. Shot the lights out. Had 16 points. Went 3 of 4 from 3 against Supreme. And then in the 76-60 win against Nebraska Hoops Elite Black, Glock had 24, 9 of 12 from the field, including 6 of 8 from 3. And that's like watching him play in the spring. I watched like 2/3 of their games, 13 of their 20. And obviously we know he can shoot. He didn't shoot the 3 ball to his capability in the spring. So good to see him coming out of June now, shooting the ball with confidence and knocking down shots, because that'll be big for him. They're going to need that. They're going to need more for him now. Here in July, without Bengat Dak, who was such a huge part of that team, obviously now out at Colorado, kind of getting used to that and working his way in there.
His ball handling, I think, will be the next part of his evolution, because I think he's a good shooter.
Yeah.
I think his ability to kind of put it on the floor a little bit will really help kind of elevate his stock because he's a skilled player.
Yep. And he was knocking down jumpers, knocked down a couple of tough threes off the dribble. He's really been working on that kind of elbow pull up, that one dribble, get downhill, and then pull up and knock it down. Gretna point guard Landon Pekorski was solid in both, had 10 points and 3 assists in both games.
Did you know he's very trim now? He seems like he is very tapered. Usually he's kind of that strong. I look at him as kind of that strong, kind of stocky build. He was standing next to Wilcoxon on Saturday, and he looked very thin. He looked good.
Yeah. So that's them. They went 2-1. MBDA went 1-3. I watched all 4 of their games, and Dylan Clausen was really good in the loss against Supreme, and then the 74-64 win against OSA Travis. Had 17 points, 10 boards, 5 assists against Supreme. Had 19 points, 14 rebounds, 2 assists against OSA. Cook also had a double-double against Supreme, had 14 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists. Just missed one, 13 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists against OSA. So those are the key guys, again, especially with Trayson Anderson sideline. And then Grand Urbanic led them in scoring against ETG and their 57-52 loss against All Iowa Attack Elite Red to kind of close out the weekend. Hit a bunch of threes over the weekend, was not shy about letting it fly. So those are kind of the guys that led the way for Urbanic. Also had 18 against OSA Travis there too. So he had a solid weekend as well. Nebraska Hoops Elite, I didn't see a ton of them, but I saw that game against Nebraska Supreme, and Tay Moore from Lincoln Southeast was terrific in that game, and 19 points, really efficient shooting, scored from all 3 levels, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. And then I didn't watch this game, but I saw the end of it. They beat All Iowa Attack Elite Red 64-63 to close out the weekend to get their 1 win. And All Iowa Attack hit a go-ahead 3 with in the last 15 seconds less or so. Then they go back down and put the ball in Moore's hands. He gets downhill, reverses, scores at the basket as the buzzer sounds to give them that win there. So good weekend for him. That's kind of the Nebraska teams in the Platinum division. The Blue Jays division was kind of the second one, but you still got some of the best teams.
Yeah.
The team that had the best weekend there was OSA Elite Klein. They went 4-0. They beat Nebraska Hoops Elite Black in a grinder the first night of the tournament, 65-60. They beat Lincoln Supreme National 2, who we'll talk about in a moment, but won that game by 12. Cole Peterson had 12 points, 7 boards, 2 blocks. Steven Pulacek had 12 points.
Another guy having a good offseason.
Yep. They smacked All Iowa Attack Elite Red 71-51. And then they closed out the weekend with an 86-67 win against Lincoln Supreme National 1. Unfortunately, Peterson, who is having a really good spring and summer, he went down with a knee injury in that game, hoping it's not too serious and he'll be okay. But that's kind of a big loss for them. They picked up Corian Gallatin from Fremont, playing up a couple of grades.
Sat with his dad.
Yeah.
We watched a lot of hoops together.
So they got Ben Johnson from Kearney playing up 1 grade, Corian playing up 2 grades to kind of round out that team because they've had some guys they needed to fill in for.
Johnson will no longer be a well-kept secret in Kearney either. He's a good player.
Yeah, they're going to be solid this year. Supreme National 2 went 3-1 this weekend. They lost to Klein, but Kellen Hum from Lincoln Pius 10th had 22 points, had 4 threes in that one. They were down 18 at halftime to Kingdom Hoops Navy and rallied to win 62-59. Hum had 18 points in that game. Aiden Brass, his Pius teammate, 16 points, 6 boards. And Hank Hughes from Seward was solid, an efficient 12 points, 7 rebounds, got to the free throw line. So that was a really impressive win. They beat Southwest Iowa Impact Gold by 10. And then they closed out the weekend with a really impressive 75-46 win against a good OSA Elite Travis team there. Shot 12 and 19 from 3 as a team.
I like that Travis team too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Shane, give us about 3 or 4 minutes on the clock, so we can get this in because I want to kind of get to the 15s too.
Yeah. So last 17 team, Fremont D League went 3-1. Really impressive showing from Connor Shutt from Wahoo Newman. He was really efficient, big time scoring in both games. Riker Wohlers from DC West had a good game against Norfolk D-Lade. Grayson Bauman from Fort Calhoun, big time scorer there. In the second game I saw against a good Iowa hoops team, they won by 5. Shut at 21 in that one. Noah Simonis from Conestoga had really efficient 18. So good. That's a good team coming. Obviously, the D-League teams don't play a ton of games, but you had some good players out in the smaller schools there. Kind of rapid fire here. The 16s, the Nebraska Supreme went 3-1. They lost in the championship to All Iowa Attack Elite Red. 19 all at halftime, a little bit of a grinder. Barrett Bosiger from Norris got hot in the second half, scored all 20, hit 6 threes in the second half.
Watching you watch his game, this was my man, Jacob Padilla. He's got his notebook.
Yeah, every time down, he's getting a shout out.
I mean, he comes up quite a bit on this show over the last 5-6 months. He can play.
So they had a good weekend overall. Barrett's kind of the leading scorer for that team, and then but they couldn't quite keep up with Attack in the second half. Ended up losing by 10. Deacon Courtney from Ralston was solid, and they're at 11 points, 2 blocks, but they couldn't quite get anybody else really rolling there. But it was a good overall weekend for a team that struggled in the spring. Hopefully that gives them some confidence heading down to Houston now. Supreme National 1 finished 3rd place. They lost to Nebraska Supreme in the semifinal and then beat Kingdom Hoops Elite in the 3rd place game. So that was a good weekend for them as well. Parker Kelly was good, for another Pius kid in the semifinal. And skipping ahead to the 15s here, although it was kind of, there was a break in the schedule for the top team. So I kind of watched one from the second division there. Lincoln Supreme National 2, the best single performance I saw all weekend. Jacob Dewitzman from Lincoln Lutheran, 31 points, 15 to 17 shooting, 14 rebounds, 4 blocks, and 2 steals against No Coast Elite, who was Jay Foreman's team. Had some young kids playing up there. But
Foreman, sometimes I think he's going to lose his mind, but they play hard.
He's got some young kids that can go, though. His Grant Frederick Foreman's son had 25 points, got to the line, took 13 free throws in that game, playing against 16s. And then his Lincoln Northeast teammate, Easton Switzer, had 22 points, hit 5 threes. So that was a fun little game. The Supreme National 2 went 4-0 in their division, and then No Coast Elite went 3-1. And finally, the 15s. My team, we finished runner-up, lost in the championship to All Iowa Attack Elite 1, or Elite by 1. 72-71.
And that's red, too, because those guys are good.
Yeah, that's the team. We played them 3 times now. We've lost by 2. I forgot what the second one. We had a big lead and then blew it, and they won maybe like 10 or something like that. We were shorthanded both times, playing with 6 plus a sub from another team. Finally, we got 8. We got Nate Kelly, Sawyer Smith, who didn't play neither of those 2 games. It was a heck of a game. It was one of the best games of the tournament, back and forth the entire way. They ended up pulling ahead by 6 down the stretch. We battle back into it, run a play, chuck it down half court, pitch it out to Nate Kelly, hits a 3 to cut it to 1 with 1 and change left, like 1.7 or whatever. They inbound it. We foul them with 1 second left. They go down, miss the front end. Derek Tonjes grabs the rebound, chucks it from near the baseline. It hit about a foot left of the rim and up on the backboard. Like it sailing through there. I was like, oh man, that's got a chance. So that tough loss, but that was a really, really good. As far as I know, they've only lost to Mocan Elite and Howard Pulley, and I think they beat Mocan too.
It's a good team.
So yeah, that's one of the best teams in the region, and we were right there. It's so frustrating, but we were really good in our first 3 games. We beat TSA United, Nebraska team. Yeah. Beat that by beat them
the most
by 18.
Distinguished uniforms in the gym.
Yeah, it definitely stood out. We beat Kingdom Hoops Navy by 41. Man,
so everybody, you guys must have shot the lights out.
We did very much so.
Everybody, they're like, hey, you see those guys shoot? I'm like, yeah, very familiar with JP's team.
Yeah. Then we beat Kingdom Hoops Elite by 20 in the semifinal. And man, Nate Kelly was phenomenal all weekend. Sawyer Smith, who only got to really play 1 weekend with us in the spring because he hurt his ankle and had to miss 2 of the other weekends that he was set to play in. He was really, really good. He had 2 double-doubles, almost had a third. Led us at average about 12 points and 8 boards this weekend. Really efficient scoring. Kelly shot the lights out. Was 10 to 17 from 3 on the weekend. Owen Anderson from Millard North, 10 of 18 from 3 on the weekend. Derek Tonja is really efficient scoring like he does. Average about 10. Trevin Wilkins, a little over 10 as well. So we had a lot of guys really going this weekend. He had 69 assists and only 31 turnovers in our 4 games.
You'll take that as a coach.
That's
JP Ball right there.
That's a good ratio. I was very excited about the way we played. So it feels good having Kelly and Sawyer back with us because that adds another dimension to the team where we're not relying so much on a couple of the guys that had to play such heavy minutes in the spring, as shorthanded as we were. Now we've got a few more different ways to attack teams. Really fun weekend. I really wish we could have gotten that, but the kids played really well. There's no shame in losing to that team, especially, again, we a few more seconds. I think we had a couple of chances where we got the ball back down 2 and ended up turning the ball over, didn't get a shot up. So that's kind of the frustrating way to end it. But overall, we played well. And then shout out to Lincoln Supreme National 1, who finished 3rd place. I saw their first game. They really balanced scoring. Treston Haas from Seward is one of their best players. Had a really good spring. And then in the 3rd place game, they beat Kingdom Hoops Elite 75-66. Hudson Mesker, who's at Lincoln Southwest now, went off for 22 points. Gage Hedstrom from O'Neill St. Mary's had 12 points on 4 threes, and then Haas had 10 as well.
If Southwest gets their chemistry right, they'll be interesting to watch in Lincoln.
Yep. So again, we talked about all spring, all June, get their kind of baseball kids back. What their team is really going to look like in the fall. Hopefully, they can kind of sort it out because they've got some talent too. A lot of guards, like we said.
Does your team feel the momentum heading into Houston like you do?
I think so. I think they were excited about the way this weekend goes. We'll get Jordan Aguema back. He was out playing soccer in North Carolina. His team made a good run out there. And then hopefully Jack Poppy is going to give it a go with his hamstring.
Jacob Padilla with 10.
So yeah, excited. We'll see. It's bracket play from the start. So big game right off the bat. We're playing a Missouri flight team that had a good spring. So we got to come ready to go. I think we're guaranteed 4 games no matter what, but hopefully we can make a run, get a win off that first bat and make a run. Cause there's some teams there that we played at less than full strength that we'd like to get another crack at.
Yeah, competitive coach. That's another week of Nebraska Preps post game. We'll get JP back here safely, and we'll be back next week with another recap. Don't you dare miss us.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.